Yes. Okay, so service transition. If we think back to the ITIL life cycle, we started with service strategy, we moved into service design, and service transition is going to start the execution of the things that were uh, planned and designed.
Alrighty.
Oops, I hit mute and I didn't unmute myself. Objectives for service transition include plan and manage the resources. Ensure there's minimal unpredicted impact. Increase the customer, user, and service management staff satisfaction. Increase proper use of services and underlying applications in technology solutions. Provide clear and comprehensive plans. And the business value is that service transition provides the ability to adapt quickly to new requirements and market developments. It provides an organization with a quote unquote competitive edge. The transition management of mergers, demergers, acquisitions, and transfer of services are well executed. The success rate of changes and releases for the business are well executed, and the predictions of service levels and warranties for newer change services are well managed. Okay, 5 processes in service transition: transition planning and support, service asset and configuration management, change management, release and deployment management, and knowledge management. Transition planning and support. So this process is concerned with planning for the transition overall. So if we're following the ITIL schema, we're going to plan for the transition before we do anything. So that's all about that's what transition planning and support is about. The purpose of transition planning and support is to provide overall planning for service transitions and to coordinate the resources that they require. So if we want a new contract, if we are rolling out a new service or line of service, excuse me, we are going to plan for that, and we're going to coordinate all the resources that are required for that new service. Objectives of transition planning and support are to plan and coordinate the resources to ensure that the requirements of service strategy, which is what we start with, how we start our life cycle, encoded in service design, the aforementioned process, are effectively realized in service operation. So that statement is just showing the relationship between all the process areas. So it's saying that the thing that we thought about in service strategy, the thing that we conceptualized in service strategy was we put pen to paper in service design. We designed it. Service transition is the execution or the release of what we designed. And then we'll see how effective we were in service operations. Second objective of transition planning and support: coordinate activities across projects, suppliers, service teams where required. So in most organizations, we are utilizing the same resources. And so we may or may not have dedicated resources for every specific position, for every specific role. So transition planning and support helps to coordinate all the activities through all of the different roles, all the different teams, all the different suppliers to make sure that the transition happens smoothly. And lastly, transition planning and support establishes new or changed services and to supported environments within the predicted cost, quality, and time estimates. Very, very straightforward. Second process, service asset and configuration management. The goals of service asset and configuration management are to support the business and customers' control objectives and requirements. Support service management process by providing accurate configuration information to enable people to make decisions. Minimize the number of quality and compliance issues, and optimize service assets, IT configurations, capabilities, and resources, which are also your strategic assets. I pronounce this acronym as SACM. But the objective is to define and control the components of service and infrastructure and maintain accurate configuration information on the historical plan and current state of the services and infrastructure. IT service management covers service assets across the whole service lifecycle, and it provides a complete inventory of service assets and who is responsible for their control. So overall, service asset and configuration management keeps tabs on all of its resources and capabilities. So if we're talking about physical resources, we want to know how much inventory we have. We want to know the different versions of said inventory. We want to know where they are. We want to know if they're operational or if they've been retired. We want to know if they've required updates. We want to know if they have passed all of the required maintenance testing. We want to keep really, really tight gauge on the availability of these resources. Because when we go live and we transition, the last thing that we want is for something, especially one of our physical resources, to fail. And someone to say, oh, I didn't know. Oh, we needed that one piece of equipment, but it's in Denver. Or the person that we fired 3 months ago never turned it back in. Or the only person that has the password to that system is on vacation. So we want to make sure that all of our service assets and our configuration items are being monitored, they're being assessed, we know their status, we know their location, we know who owns them, so that when it's time to transition, everything's ready to go. Definition of a configuration item is an asset, a service component, or any other item that is under control of configuration management. Another way to think about what a CI is anything that needs to be controlled. So, configuration item could be a flat screen TV within the office. A configuration item could be the CEO's parking pass. Configuration item could be our Microsoft Suite applications. It could be a number of things, but the point is that the configuration item is any item or service component that needs to be under control within the organization. And the organization defines that. Configuration baseline is the configuration of a service, product, or infrastructure that has been formally reviewed and agreed upon. So a configuration baseline would be your first set of data involving a configuration item or items that has been stamped as agreed upon. So for instance, if we order 20 monitors and we order a flat screen TV and we order some server racks, the moment we identify those items and we tag them and we enter them into our CMDB, that becomes a configuration baseline. Are you familiar with the configuration baseline?
This is the first time I've heard of it, but it seems pretty self-explanatory.
Yes. So if we think of something that is not physical, we can have a baseline of a process. So if it's your organization's first time implementing incident management, Your first iteration of documenting that process and attempting to execute it will become your baseline. And every year, or as major changes occur, any change that happens to that process becomes is measured against the baseline, and that will be your first release, second release, third release, etc.
Does the baseline ever adjust?
No, the
Okay.
baseline is set. Once you set it, that's it. It's set.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Information about each CI is recorded in a configuration record within the configuration management system and is maintained throughout its life cycle by configuration management. And we will get into all of that. Examples of configuration items, once again, these are anything within your organization that needs to be controlled. IT services, hardware, software, accommodations, people, and formal documentation. For instance, formal documentation, your service catalog is an example of a configuration item. Your capacity plan is an example of a configuration item. Your SLA is an example of a configuration item, etc.